Rain-hammered Madison Avenue as Marcus Thompson, 28, stood outside the Whitmore Gallery, clutching his portfolio. 3 years since graduating from Pratt Institute, 3 years of rejections. Today, Victoria Whitmore herself would review his work. Inside, the marble floors had never welcomed someone like him. His Jordans squeaked past million-dollar paintings. The receptionist's cold stare followed him to Victoria's office. Victoria didn't stand when he entered. 53, silver hair severe, Chanel suit sharp as glass. Her eyes scanned him, his locks, brown skin, sneakers, with barely concealed disdain. "Mr. Thompson, you have 10 minutes." Marcus laid out his masterwork. Street art merged with Renaissance techniques. His centerpiece, The Last Supper in a Brooklyn barbershop. Victoria circled the pieces, lifting one between manicured fingers like it might contaminate her. "Interesting. Where did you study?" "Pratt Institute." "Graduated summa cum laude?" "Yes, I see the influence." She set it down carelessly. "Your work speaks to a certain demographic. Our collectors expect sophistication, refinement that transcends cultural limitations." Each pause was a dagger. Urban meant black. Cultural limitations meant wrong skin color. "Your work is very urban. Perhaps smaller galleries for emerging communities would be suitable. Are you rejecting me because I'm black? Security will show you out." Marcus packed steadily, hands refusing to shake. Passing the contemporary section, he caught curator Sarah Martinez's eye. She'd heard everything. Outside, his phone rang. Harold Chen, his mentor, a retired corporate lawyer. "How'd it go?" "She basically said my skin was the problem. Come to my office. I found something interesting about their finances." Harold's Chinatown office overflowed with documents. "The Whitmore Gallery is hemorrhaging money. $2 million in back taxes. Victoria's leveraged everything. Broke but still racist? Pride's expensive, but Victoria doesn't own it all. Minority shareholders own 30%. Sarah Martinez knocked and entered. "I've been recording Victoria for 6 months. 7 black artists rejected, 3 Latino, 4 Asian." She played Victoria's voice. "Very urban, lacks sophistication." Harold smiled. "The tax lion triggers forced sale in 10 days. If we raise capital..." Marcus called his cousin Terence, tech millionaire. "Remember wanting to change the culture? I have an opportunity." 2 hours later, Terence committed $500,000. Dr. Williams, Black Investors Collective, $300,000. Asian American Business Alliance, $400,000. Still short, Harold calculated. The phone rang. "Mr. Thompson, Robert Whitmore, Victoria's uncle. I own 15%. Can we meet?" Robert's penthouse breathed warmth, African masks, street art, Harlem Renaissance paintings. At 78, Victoria's uncle moved with dignity. "My grandfather was a Jewish immigrant who built that gallery as sanctuary for challenging art. Victoria's betrayed everything he stood for." He handed them a flash drive. 43 board meetings recorded. Every racist comment documented. Sarah scrolled through files. "She explicitly says, no ghetto art." "I'll sell you my shares for $1, Robert declared. "Keep the Whitmore name, for my grandfather, not her." Jasmine Powell, Robert's assistant, Harvard MBA, opened her laptop. "The diverse art market is massive. Asian collectors spent $4.8 billion last year. By 2 a.m., they had $3.7 million committed. With Robert's shares plus minority shareholders, we'll have 51% control," Harold announced. "Victoria's gala is Friday," Robert warned. 3 days after the tax deadline. Every major collector attending. "Perfect," Marcus said. "We complete the sale Thursday, attend Friday as owners." Thursday morning. Marcus signed incorporation papers for Collective Arts Holdings, LLC. At 10 a.m., Harold's associate paid the tax lien. Robert transferred his shares. By 11 a.m., Victoria's phone exploded with calls from lawyers. Marcus watched from across the street as Victoria screamed at her attorneys. The sale was legal, irreversible. That evening, Richard Sterling called from Tokyo. "You've stolen what's mine, boy. The gallery was never yours. Everything in New York art is mine." You'll be bankrupt in 6 months. Marcus hung up. In Bed-Stuy, his grandmother held his hand. Your daddy would be proud, but are you ready? I've never been more ready, Grandma. Friday, 9 a.m. Marcus stood outside the gallery in his best suit. Harold presented ownership documents. We're the new majority owners. Step aside. Victoria stood inside, dressed in funeral black. You've destroyed this gallery. No, I've freed it. Gallery workers, mostly people of color, began applauding as Marcus hung his paintings on the main wall. 7 p.m. The Whitmore Gallery glittered with champagne and chandeliers. New York's elite arrived expecting Victoria's exclusive announcement. They had no idea. Marcus adjusted his tie in what was now his office. His grandmother sat in the place of honor, wearing her best dress. Never thought I'd see inside this place, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, Harold commanded attention from the stage. The Whitmore Gallery is under new ownership. Collective Arts Holdings, led by Marcus Thompson, has acquired majority stake. The room exploded. Gasps, shouts, champagne glasses shattering. Victoria screamed, "This is theft! These people stole my family's legacy!" Actually, Robert Whitmore stepped forward, they've restored it. My grandfather built this gallery for art that challenged prejudice. Victoria betrayed that. Marcus honors it. Richard Sterling, back from Tokyo, declared, every serious collector will boycott this gallery. Will they? Mrs. Chen Williams, major Asian art collector, stood. I'm doubling my purchases here. As am I, added British billionaire James Hartley. Someone needed to shake up this incestuous little world. Marcus took the microphone. The room fell silent. 3 days ago, I was told my work had cultural limitations, that it was too urban, that it didn't belong here. But art isn't about belonging. It's about truth. And the truth is, this city is filled with brilliant artists whose only crime is being born the wrong color for gatekeepers like Ms. Whitmore. He gestured to his paintings, now hanging beside Monet's. Do they diminish the masters, or do they continue the conversation? An elderly man approached Marcus's Brooklyn Last Supper. Extraordinary. I'll buy it. Not for sale. It stays here so every kid from Brooklyn can see their stories matter. Victoria laughed bitterly. You'll be bankrupt in a month. Maybe, but I know how to open doors instead of closing them. Sarah unveiled the new exhibition schedule. First, The Rejected. 43 artists turned away for their race. Second, The Elders. Older artists who never got their chance. Third, The Future. Teenage artists from public schools. I'll sponsor all 3 exhibitions. Malik Freeman, tech billionaire, stood at the entrance. $5 million to start. Mr. Thompson, you've used their own game to beat them. Sterling pulled Victoria toward the exit. This isn't over. Get in line, Marcus replied calmly. His grandmother stood before his paintings, tears streaming. Your mama painted too, never got her chance, but you did it for her. Harold approached with champagne. 47 sales tonight, 3 million in revenue. It's not about money, Marcus said. No, but money keeps doors open, and these doors are never closing again. The Times article broke at midnight. Black artist buys gallery that rejected him for his race. By morning, it was international news. Gallery justice trending globally. Marcus arrived at 6 a.m. to find hundreds of artists lined up with portfolios. Set up review stations, he told Sarah. Everyone gets seen. Sterling's counterattack began immediately. He pulled advertising from supportive magazines, convinced galleries to blacklist Whitmore artists, filed a fraudulent acquisition lawsuit. Marcus called a press conference. Sterling wants war, but this isn't about him or me. It's about voices he can't silence anymore. That evening, Victoria appeared on Fox News crying, "My family's legacy stolen by radical activists." Death threats arrived. Someone spray-painted the N-word on gallery windows. At 3 a.m., Marcus stood looking at the slur. His best friend Dante arrived. They want me to break. So we turn hate into art. Next morning, Marcus painted around the slur, transforming it into butterflies carrying away hate, leaving only light. Other artists joined. Madison Avenue watched hate become beauty. The gallery broke records, more visitors in 3 days than Victoria saw monthly. Then Christopher Sterling arrived, Richard's son. "I'm here to buy art and apologize. My father represents everything wrong with inherited privilege." He purchased 5 pieces, posted on Instagram to 3 million followers, calling out his father's racism. Sterling's empire cracked. Wife filed for divorce. Galleries distanced themselves. Lawsuit dismissed. A week later, Richard Sterling stood in Marcus's office, defeated. "What do you want?" Marcus led him to where Brownsville school children toured. A young Latino boy stood transfixed before Marcus's painting. "That could be me," he whispered. "That's what you've been fighting," Marcus told Sterling. "Kids who deserve to see themselves here." 6 months later, the Whitmore Gallery had tripled in value. 7 new artists launched into major collections. The Guggenheim wanted partnerships. The Met requested loans. The Louvre displayed Marcus's Brooklyn Last Supper, calling it the decade's most important American painting. But real victory was smaller, deeper. Keisha Williams, 16, from Harlem, selling her first painting. Jorge Martinez, formerly undocumented, finally showing hidden work. Mrs. Chen seeing her granddaughter's photography beside Annie Leibovitz. Marcus stood in his office reviewing expansion plans when Harold entered. Victoria moved to LA, small gallery there. "I hope she learns." Sterling's under SEC investigation. His art dealings were the least of his crimes. Marcus pulled out blueprints. Galleries in Chicago, Atlanta, Houston. Not franchises, partnerships with local artists. Every city has its Bed-Stuy. That's ambitious. That's necessary. Dr. Patricia Hayes from the National Endowment for the Arts arrived. "What you've done is reimagining who decides culture. $50 million to help you expand nationally." Marcus's phone buzzed. Victoria from LA, standing in her new gallery with a black artist's painting prominently displayed. "Learning slowly. Thank you for the lesson." He deleted it. Some redemptions were private. That evening, a 7-year-old girl tugged his jacket holding a crayon drawing. "Is it good enough for your gallery?" He knelt, studying it seriously. "Perfect. Let's frame it for my office." His grandmother watched from her chair, now permanent fixture in the gallery. "You know what your mama would say?" "What?" "That you didn't just buy the gallery, you freed it." A new plaque at the entrance read, "The Whitmore Gallery, founded 1924, reborn 2024. Art is the voice of those who refuse to be silenced. All are welcome." The gallery hummed with life. Artists teaching kids, collectors learning from communities they'd ignored, conversations that couldn't happen before. Marcus began a new painting that night. The gallery with glass walls, inside and outside merged. No barriers, just art and people and possibility. His phone rang constantly. Young artists crying with joy. "They said I'd never make it. They were wrong," Marcus would say. "They were always wrong." 1 year later, Marcus stood before Congress testifying about discrimination in the arts. Gatekeeping isn't about taste, it's about power. Who decides what culture is? The Whitmore model had spread. 20 cities now had partnership galleries. Each maintained local character while sharing the mission, amplifying silenced voices. In Detroit, a former auto worker's sculptures about industrial decline sold internationally. In Miami, Cuban exile paintings found global collectors. In Atlanta, photographs of Black Joy broke auction records. "You changed the conversation," his grandmother said. The new exhibition, America Unframed, featured artists from every state, every background, every story America tried to forget. Opening night, thousands came, not just collectors, but families, students, dreamers. Art spilled onto Madison Avenue. Music played. Food trucks served everything. Emily Whitmore, Victoria's cousin, approached with a painting, the gallery with transparent walls. "Would you consider showing this?" Marcus studied it. "Perfect for our next exhibition, Reconciliation." Harold found Marcus on the roof later. "Any regrets?" "None. We did what needed doing. Every major gallery is reassessing their policies now." "Good, but policies aren't enough. We need to change hearts. Below, a young black boy explained his painting to a white collector who listened intently, learning. That's the real victory, Marcus said. Conversations across divides. Richard Sterling's revenge came in waves. First, he created the Traditional Arts Alliance, positioning Marcus as destroyer of classical culture. Then he funded protests outside Whitmore, bussing in people who'd never entered a gallery. Marcus watched protesters chant, "Save real art," while holding signs with misspelled words. "Let them protest," he told worried staff. "We'll keep our doors open, even to them." One protester, an older white woman, ventured inside. She stopped before a painting by Deshaun Williams, a portrait of his grandmother picking cotton, rendered in Renaissance style. "My grandmother picked cotton too," she whispered. "In Alabama, we were poor. Art connects us," Marcus said gently, "even across differences." She left crying, sign abandoned. Sterling escalated. He convinced insurance companies to raise Whitmore's premiums. He pressured art shippers to refuse their business. He paid influencers to mock woke art. But for every attack, support grew stronger. LeBron James visited, purchasing 10 pieces for his foundation. "This is what championship looks like," he posted. Beyoncé filmed a video in the gallery. "Art is revolution," she declared. Young artists globally began recreating Marcus's butterfly transformation, turning hate into beauty. Butterfly effect became a movement. Then Sterling made his fatal mistake. He leaked private emails showing his plan to destroy that uppity nutto. The backlash was instant. His remaining galleries faced boycotts. Artists pulled their work. His wife filed not just for divorce, but a restraining order. At Sterling's bankruptcy hearing, Marcus attended. "Come to gloat?" Sterling asked, broken. "No. To offer you a job. Teaching art to kids in Brownsville, minimum wage. You'll learn what real culture is." Sterling laughed bitterly. "I'd rather die." "Pride's expensive," Marcus replied. "I know. I've paid that price." 2 months later, Sterling appeared at the gallery, humbled, desperate. "I'll take the job." Marcus handed him a sketchpad. "First lesson, forget everything you think you know about art." 3 years after the takeover, the Whitmore Gallery model had revolutionized American art. 50 partnership galleries across the country, a billion-dollar foundation supporting marginalized artists, art programs in 300 public schools. Marcus stood before the United Nations, addressing the Global Cultural Summit. Art isn't neutral. It either reinforces power or challenges it. For too long, it reinforced. Now, it challenges. He showed slides. A Palestinian girl's paintings displayed in Tel Aviv, a Jewish artist's Holocaust memories in a Cairo gallery, former enemies connected through creation. This isn't about replacing one hegemon with another. It's about ending hegemony itself. Back in New York, his grandmother's health was failing. Marcus spent nights beside her hospital bed, sketching her hands, the hands that raised him, that taught him strength. "I'm proud of you, baby," she whispered. "You did what your parents couldn't." "What's that, Grandma?" "You didn't just succeed in their world, you changed their world." She passed holding his hand, looking at his paintings on her hospital room wall. The funeral filled Madison Avenue. Artists, collectors, students, even former enemies came. Victoria Whitmore sent flowers with a note. She raised a revolutionary with respect. Marcus spoke at the service. "She taught me that doors closed in your face are just invitations to build new doors." A year later, Marcus received a call. The Louvre wanted him to curate a global exhibition, Art Without Borders. "You want me to curate the Louvre? You've proven art can change the world. Help us change ours." In Paris, Marcus stood where kings once walked, now filling halls with art from favelas, refugee camps, indigenous communities. Opening night, the French president asked, "How did you know this would work?" "I didn't," Marcus admitted, "but I knew the alternative, keeping things as they were, was failure." The exhibition broke Louvre attendance records. More importantly, it sparked global policy changes. Museums worldwide instituted quotas for marginalized artists. Art schools created scholarship programs. Governments funded community art programs. But success brought new challenges. Some accused Marcus of becoming the establishment he'd fought. Young artists said Whitmore was now too mainstream, too safe. Marcus listened. Then he did something unprecedented. He resigned as director, keeping only an advisory role. Power should rotate, he announced. New voices, new visions. Sarah Martinez became director. She immediately launched Disruption, showcasing art that challenged even Whitmore's new values. "You're not angry?" Harold asked. "I'm proud," Marcus replied. "Revolution isn't a destination, it's a journey." Marcus returned to Bed-Stuy, converting his grandmother's apartment into a free art school. No applications, no requirements. Just show up and create. Richard Sterling, now 3 years into teaching, had transformed. His students loved him, this broken man who'd learned humility through humiliation. "You were right," Sterling told Marcus. "I knew about art. I knew nothing about artists." Together they taught the former Titan and the revolutionary, showing kids that art was theirs to claim. One student, Maria Santos, undocumented and brilliant, painted her family's journey across borders. Her work caught a collector's eye at the student showcase. "I'll pay 100,000, the collector offered. "It's not for sale," Maria said, echoing Marcus from years ago. "It stays here so kids like me know they matter." Marcus smiled. The revolution was raising its own revolutionaries. Victoria Whitmore visited unexpectedly. Older, softer, she carried a canvas. "I've been painting," she said quietly. "For the first time, really painting, not performing, not networking, just creating." She unveiled a self-portrait, brutal in its honesty. It showed her surrounded by mirrors, each reflecting a different mask she'd worn, while her real face wept. "It's powerful," Marcus said genuinely. Would you consider showing it? Not at Whitmore, here, in the student gallery." "Why?" "Because I need to start over, from the bottom, like I should have begun." Marcus hung her painting beside Maria's, former oppressor and formerly oppressed, side by side. The media went wild. Full circle, Victoria Whitmore shows at Community Center. But Marcus wasn't interested in media narratives anymore. He was teaching 8-year-old Jamal to hold a brush, watching him discover he could create worlds. 5 years after the takeover, the president awarded Marcus the Medal of Freedom. He brought his students to the ceremony. "This medal isn't mine," he said. "It belongs to everyone who was told they didn't belong." That evening, alone in the White House bathroom, Marcus laughed. The kid who'd been rejected was being honored in America's most exclusive space. But he felt empty. Awards didn't fill the hole his grandmother left. Returning to New York, he found a package. Inside, his parents' paintings, works his grandmother had hidden, saved for this moment. A note in her handwriting. They were rejected too, but they never stopped creating. Neither should you. Marcus wept, holding their art, seeing his style in theirs, understanding he'd been continuing their conversation all along. 10 years after that rainy rejection, Marcus stood in the same room where Victoria had dismissed him. But now it was transformed. Walls removed, space opened, light flooding in. The Whitmore Gallery had become something unrecognizable from its past, a living community center where art was made, not just displayed. "Tell us the story again," begged the children sitting cross-legged before him. Marcus smiled, settling into his teaching position. "Once upon a time, a young man was told he didn't belong. As he spoke, he painted, showing them how rejection became fuel, how closed doors became canvases for new possibilities. Sarah Martinez, now director for 5 years, had transformed Whitmore into a global force. Satellite galleries in Lagos, Mumbai, São Paulo, artist residencies in every continent. The old guard had either adapted or disappeared. "Marcus," Sarah interrupted, "someone here to see you." A young woman stood nervously, portfolio in hand. She looked like Marcus had 10 years ago, hungry, talented, ready to fight for her place. "They say you look at everyone's work," she said. "I do. Show me." She unveiled paintings that made Marcus's breath catch. They were revolutionary, mixing digital and traditional, ancient and futuristic. They made his own work look antiquated. "These are extraordinary," he said. "Really? Because I've been rejected everywhere. They say my work is too different." Marcus laughed. Not bitter, but joyful. "Different is what changes the world." He called Sarah over. "Clear the main gallery. She gets a solo show." "But that space is booked for established artists. We are not a gallery that books. We are a gallery that discovers." The young woman cried. "Why? Why take this chance on me?" "Because someone should have taken it on me sooner. And because your work isn't just good, it's what's next." That night, Marcus walked through the gallery one last time as owner. Tomorrow, he would sign papers converting it into a permanent community trust. No one person would ever own it again. Harold, now 81, found him in the restoration room. Having second thoughts? None. Ownership was never the goal. Access was. "You've given away an empire. I've gained a legacy." They walked through rooms where children learned beside masters, where former enemies collaborated, where art was being democratized in real time. "Your parents would be proud," Harold said. "You know what I realized?" Marcus replied. "They're not gone. They're in every stroke I make, every door I open, every kid I teach. We don't die as long as our impact lives." Outside, Madison Avenue had transformed. The protests were gone. The old guard had mostly retreated or reformed. Art galleries lined the street, each one more inclusive than the last, all trying to capture what Whitmore had started. But Whitmore remained unique. It wasn't trying to be exclusive or inclusive. It simply was, a space where art existed without qualification. The final exhibition under Marcus's ownership was titled The Conversation. It featured 3 pieces: his grandmother's only surviving sketch, his parents' rediscovered paintings, and his own latest work. 3 generations of rejected artists, finally on the walls they'd been denied. Opening night, the gallery overflowed. Critics, collectors, students, homeless individuals, all equal in the space. Richard Sterling, now genuinely transformed after 7 years of teaching, gave a speech. "I spent my life building walls. Marcus Thompson taught me to paint doors. I hated him for destroying my empire. I thank him for saving my soul." Victoria Whitmore, now teaching at the community center, added, "My family built these walls. It took someone my family would have rejected to tear them down. The gallery is more Whitmore now than it ever was under a Whitmore." Marcus spoke last. 10 years ago, I was told I didn't belong here. The woman who told me that was right. I didn't belong in the gallery she was running. None of us did. So we didn't try to belong. We transformed what here meant." He unveiled his final painting as owner, the gallery dissolving into light, becoming part of the city itself, boundaries erased. Art isn't something you own, it's something you are. We all are. The gallery doesn't contain art anymore, it creates artists. As midnight approached, Marcus signed the trust papers. The Whitmore Gallery now belonged to no one and everyone. Walking home to Bed-Stuy, Marcus passed the spot where he'd stood in the rain 10 years ago, rejected and furious. He smiled, remembering that broken young man who thought owning the gallery would be revenge. It had never been about revenge. It had been about revelation, revealing that the real power wasn't in owning spaces, but in opening them. His phone buzzed. A text from a young artist in Bangladesh. "Your story inspired us. We just occupied our national gallery. Peacefully. They're negotiating." Then another from Brazil, another from Kenya, another from Russia. The revolution hadn't been televised. It had been painted, sculpted, sung into existence. Marcus entered his grandmother's apartment, now his studio. He began a new painting. Not of galleries or confrontation, but of a child, any child, holding a brush, facing a blank canvas with infinite possibility. At the bottom, he wrote, "You belong everywhere you create." The rain started again outside. But Marcus didn't notice. He was painting the future, one where no one would ever again be told their color was a limitation. The gallery had been just the beginning. The real masterpiece was the world they were creating together. Today, the Whitmore Gallery stands as a monument, not to Marcus Thompson's revenge, but to his vision. It generates no profit because it charges no admission. It has no permanent collection because art keeps flowing through it like breath through lungs. It belongs to no one because it belongs to everyone. And on rainy days, you can still find Marcus there, teaching children to paint butterflies over words of hate, showing them that the best response to rejection is not revenge but revolution, the kind that happens one brushstroke at a time.